Hey guys, guess what we're doing today? We're going to build a PC, and it's the Xeon build. And let's start with the parts. Are you tired of seeing that activate Windows watermark? Well, now you're in luck because the software codes have you covered. Do as I do and buy all your codes at softwarecodes.com. Link in the video description. So first up, our motherboard is an ASUS B85MG Micro ADX LJ1150. And for our CPU, we have an Intel Xeon E3 1220V3, which is a 4-core and 4-thread, with a base clock of 3.1 GHz and a boost clock of 3.5, with an 80-watt TDP. And then we have our RAM, G-Skill Aegis, DDR3 8GB, 1600 MHz. And for our GPU, we are using the Janeward GTX 980, which has 2048 CUDA cores, with a core clock of 1127 MHz and a core boost clock of 1216 MHz, and a memory clock of 3500 MHz. So for our SSD, we're going with an Intenso 120GB SATA free drive with a 520 megabytes per second read and 420 megabytes second write. And for our mass storage, we're going with this Seagate Barracuda 2TB hard drive, 7200 RPM with a 64 megabyte cache SATA 3. And we'll be using 5 of these 120 millimeters up here RGB fans. And for CPU cooling, we're only using the stock Intel heatsink. And our power supply is an Fractal design Tesla 550 watt. So for the case, we'll be using this IONZ KZ05, which is a pretty neat case for so cheap. It has side panel window, full metal mesh front, but the only bummer is that it doesn't have any dust filters behind this, but it has a magnetic dust filter on the top, which is pretty neat for this price point. And our front I/O is one USB 3, two USB 2, headphone jack, microphone jack, start and reset button. So let's start building this thing. So a short disclaimer about this case is that it has no drive cages, so you have to mount the hard drive on these standoffs, and that's going to generate some noise, I believe. So I'll be see if I can find some rubber pads to put on there. So let's get on with the build. And the build is done, so let's see if she boots. And there she is. Let's see here. So our CPU is correctly detected. Our RAM is correctly detected. So let's enter setup. And here it is now. So now we'll just get Windows 10 installed and benchmark this, and let's roll the benchmarks. So now let's talk about this thing, and I can say that I switched the CPU cooler to a Cooler Master Hyper TX3 Evo because on the stock cooler under 100% CPU load it went up to like 94 degrees, and with this cooler it's maxing out at around 50, which is very pleasant. And this system can still play very well, but it's starting to show its age, at least for the 4 cores and 4 threads. It lags behind in Hitman 2, where it was a CPU bottleneck, and in Fortnite it was very good FPS, but the CPU utilization was 100% all the time. I was pleasantly surprised to see that it could play Warzone that well, and for the money I paid for this thing, it is definitely worth it. The only things that I bought new was the SSD and the fans and the case. The case and the fans and the SSD came from Amazon on very cheap prices. So now let me know what you think about this build, and leave a comment down below, leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. There is a lot more coming, and I'll see you guys next time.